Welcome back, all you slop heads. Coming at you with another slop video. Today, I want to cover one of the people that was herring and shitting on MrBeast for quite a while. Now, of course, all you know about Dogpack, you know, like he was the biggest contender. But one person that I feel like should be mentioned for also being pretty shitty, against MrBeast, is Rosanna Pansino. And I've covered her before in the past, and initially when I first saw her, I think the first video she made on MrBeast was like, you know, covering, you know, some bad stuff, some fake charity work, where she compared him to like Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, for, you know, doing charity stuff to cover up, you know, the bad stuff about the company, and that part was insane. But since then, she's made video after video of just being so bad. And of course, the worst one that most people know about was the company work chat logs being leaked, where she made it seem like it was a fucking, you know, like child porn sharing platform, you know, people giving, you know, porn to each other, when in reality, she twisted her story so bad. Like right after the video came out, there came out evidence to prove that the CP they believed to be that wasn't actually CP, and also as well like the company work chats was more for a meme chat, and she lied about that as well. But now, as most of you know as well, the interview bill came out, and again, I have to preface, I think the interview, it was fine. I keep hearing over and over like, you know, it was a softball interview, very soft on him. I think it was alright. If it was a softball interview, I don't think he would include this clip.
Are you gonna sue Dogpack?
But despite that, one long-running opinion I've had of this is that people who hate MrBeast, they will never have their opinion changed no matter what, cause like we've had good evidence come out, like, you know, the Soggy video, the interview, which in my opinion have been pretty good. But despite that, if you go on like r/YouTube drama, people will still be like, still fuck MrBeast, like, you know, all that stuff, like they can't change their mind. And Rosanna is one of those people. It makes sense, it's not justified, but it makes sense, because, you know, she's one of those people that she made, you know, multiple videos, getting millions of views, shitting on him. And now that the interview, which should, you know, it should be like the last nail in the coffin for her to make her shut up about him, she made this tweet, you know, acting like, you know, actually the interview, it was flawed, it wasn't very good. So here we have it. She said, now that MrBeast has responded, fucking quotations, after 4 months, I wanted to take a few days to see what his approach would be. It appears that these were his main steps, and I'm thinking now, should I read like all these points, or should I, you know, break them down? For the sake of pacing, I'll break down each one as I'm talking about it. Number 1, a broad public statement from his lawyers, followed immediately by, I'm guessing he's talking about like the 3-month investigation, which I think was decent, you know, it was sort of broad. No, they gave 3 exact things. They mentioned 3 things that they found, or, you know, found to be, you know, not guilty of, and yeah, they rectified one. I mean, they mentioned Chris, they mentioned Delaware, and they also said, like, you know, any employees that were found of having bad behavior, they fired them. Like how more specific do you want? Like, do you want like a full FBI and DA investigation, you know, looking at like every part of the company? And number 2, an expense-paid trip for Soggy to interview MrBeast employees, also known as access journalism. Right, I should mention this now. After the video came out by Soggy, there had been more stuff to prove that, like, some parts were funded by MrBeast, or at least by employees of MrBeast. For example, the biggest one, those interviews that Soggy had with, you know, Hoodie, the manager, the hiring manager, they were only possible because the trip to North Carolina from where Soggy lived, that flight was paid, and the hotel we stayed at during that trip was also paid by Dustin Harris.
You obviously flew to America, right?
Yeah.
Did you cover those costs yourself, or did MrBeast in any way pay?
So I was the one who offered that. Who wanted to do interviews. I reached out to Dustin about that after he reached out to me. He said that he wanted to do an interview and maybe try to ask some other employees if they wanted to do interviews. Since it was last moment and very expensive, Dustin, as far as I know, paid for those. And not on a MrBeast card, because when I got at like the hotel, which they said that it was on the card of like literally his name, like his personal card, not non-company card. I just didn't have the funds to do so.
No, that's fine. I don't necessarily think
yeah.
that's an issue, but I don't know if I maybe missed it. Was that said in the video, or is it somewhere in your description, just to really get it clear that happened?
No, it's not in the video.
No, sure. I mean, obviously, you know, it's up to you. I would say that just putting that in there somewhere, like as a comment or a thing, would probably just in case it comes up, like that could be a line of attack, right? Like you were paid to go out there.
And people have heard about that because it came from an interview or a conversation between Soggy and Chud Logic, and people have seen that and they were like, wait a second, it's fucking biased, it's self-funded, it's a propaganda piece. And I'm gonna be honest, despite that, I do think Soggy should mention that because like it does so like it might imply a little bit of bias in the video, but despite that, I think the biggest thing that this proves that there was some bias in it is that he shows evidence, like actual hardcore evidence, like stuff online, videos, like everything you could possibly need. If Soggy's video was like a half an hour long, talking about like giving a testimony about the company, then yeah, that would feel heavily biased. But again, he shows hardcore proof. I do think it was shitty or not so good. They didn't mention that part because it is pretty important to know. But despite that, I don't feel like it shuts down the video as a propaganda piece. It still has quality and doesn't feel that affected by bias. But then moving on, number 3, coordination with commentary channels with MrBeast, asking them to cover Soggy's video, as I mentioned before. In brackets, there's a large group of channels who coordinate behind the scenes to defend Jimmy. This is not proven. Like I know what you mean because like in my last video or the one before, I mentioned like how people like Pyro Live, Tom Dark, and Spill Sesh, people like that, they didn't make a video about it because they were reached out by MrBeast. But we only know that because they mentioned the video. Like they make it clear as daylight that they cover this video, they cover this topic because they wanted like MrBeast reach out to them and ask them to, just more like be like, hey, this video came out, it would be interesting to cover it. And it does feel like, again, propaganda, paying out all the people, to paint you in a good light. But believe it or not, I think the story has merit, it has value. Because for the longest time, for 4 months, people have been listening to Dogpack like a prophet. If you go back to his videos, like, like the comments during the time, like, like oldest first, people were like, nah, the MrBeast empire is falling down, like, oh my, this is crazy, this is insane. Like, there was no pushback at all. And that's pretty bad. I think for the ecosystem of YouTube, or just online in general, it's not good to have a guy make allegation after allegation, making it seem like, oh my god, he had a registered sex offender in his company, knowingly. There should be some pushback, or some people like fact checking that, researching it to see if it's true or not. The only guy covering it so far that I know, like the biggest guy, was Pegasus. And he fucking sucked them off. The only people I know that, were pushing back was small YouTubers, where they made a very good video calling him out, but like I said, nothing massive, to like really get out there in the atmosphere. The only person that did that was Soggy Serial. And even then, 4 months, someone could break down like part 1 of Dogpack, because even that was bad, or part 2, part 3, but no, only after 4 months. I mean, I did say before, a bit cowardly to like go like, hey, can you cover a video about me, please, making me seem good? A bit cowardly, I'll admit, but commentary channel like should call out people that not only have been proven shit with few evidence, but also that now have been proven to be a malicious, disgruntled ex-employee. And then number 4, a very favorable softball interview with Umperville, also known as a puff piece. I think it was a good deal. I don't care. If it was a favorable interview, it'd be like 10 minutes long, like, the best question possible. Jimmy, what do you do in your spare time? Oh, I do charity, I help people out. Like, it was a pretty good interview, I feel like. It was a bit rushed, I said that. But in terms of MrBeast, like what he answered, I think it was acceptable. But in the last paragraph you put, one thing you'll notice about this approach is not a single victim was interviewed across the hours of videos. I'll get into that second. This approach closely mirrors what Jimmy's crisis management team, Hill's 6 strategies, did for Johnny Depp during his trial. You can watch more on this in the Netflix documentary, Depp vs. Heard. Wait, wasn't the story for the longest time that Depp was right? In the meantime, Upper Echelon made a good video talking about some of the glaring issues with self-starch notice. I'd highly recommend watching. Okay, this paragraph pisses me off. Again, I'll break it down. Right. A single victim was interviewed. Why the fuck would he interview them? Okay, no, because like I have no idea what Dogpack could have said in that interview if it was a debate, because Jimmy has way more evidence, like, hardcore evidence, than what Dogpack took from online, chopped it up, like, very poorly, and threw it on, like, on his channel. And at the same time, be for real. Like, when the fuck did Dogpack reach out to Jimmy or the MrBeast company to interview an actual employee there? Like have an argument, actually fairly balanced by both sides. Never. He only talks to like other ex-employees or rogue employees that were probably like on the same level of being disgruntled as him. What I'm thinking now, I think that what she meant like specifically of single victim was more, if you guys remember back in Dogpack's part 3, there were people that said, oh, I heard rumors that LaQuoya Hill or James Warren, did some bad stuff. And if she's talking about them, then yeah, they're even worse to cover. Because like not a single person that Dogpack, reached out to, not a single one of them seems sure. All they said at most was that I heard rumors. That's it. I guess the best possible victim you could want to that interview would be Jake Weddle. But again, he got compensated. He broke down online with that Instagram post. He literally wants nothing with this. Because I think Jake Weddle is probably the smartest guy in here. Because between Dogpack and Rosanna, he's the one guy being like, okay, I'm done with this. It was more because he got sick of it, but at the same time, that's probably good, because like he saved himself from not like doing more shit. Like if he stayed in the drama for way longer, he could have possibly been in that company work chat video, which was by far the worst one. I have no idea what point you're trying to make with this Johnny Depp paragraph. Is he trying to say like crisis management teams and PR teams are bad because it's just bad? But on this last paragraph, I really hate like how she very measly puts a link to a video that she thinks was pretty good at tearing down the interview. When in reality, I really feel like if she did watch it, there would be way more points that she brought up in this tweet that would actually prove that she watched the video. But from what I read, it doesn't imply that. And also, I watched this video by Upper Echelon. It was there was some decent points. Like number one, the first point I started off saying how it was a bit hypocritical of Jimmy to be pissed off at the Reddit mods for taking that pose, calling out Dogpack. But at the same time, the MrBeast channel took down comments, with bad keywords like Chris, Shadman, scripted, all that stuff. So it's not a valid point for him to make. And also, plus in that video, he showed that he's not as biased as he's making it seem, with a title called MrBeast's response is pretty bad. Because I appreciate the point he made, when he talked about Feastables and the whole process of making it. It was a good point to make, and it's more so an argument or a point they shouldn't have brought up. Because issues like that are so minor. They make light of the big issues that should be talked about. I respect that. It's a good point to make.
And he gives explicit examples of what those companies are, how the policies work, and therefore why concern over labor practices is genuinely unfounded. I know the internet is relatively split right now, and a lot of people don't want to hear anything positive about MrBeast whatsoever, but this was a good response with legitimate points that should be referenced by critics like me. You can't gloss over this one. After that, there's an entire section on mold in Feastables, which again is a line of criticism that detracts from the things that matter. It gives him a perfect opportunity to yap about how wrong the critics are, and the fact that the Lunchly controversy even exists in the first place is a net negative for the prospect of YouTube's golden boy ever having to face the music for the real things that he's done wrong.
And yeah, I respect that. It's a pretty base take. But after that, there were some parts that made me be this video probably not the best. For one, he says outright the people in the company knew about Delaware, and that Delaware was also shown with his mask. Even though I'm pretty sure he was shown before, while he was in the company without a mask, showing his face.
After he was hired and after he appeared unmasked in a video as a Best Buy employee with the name tag Delaware, he then goes on to do a separate video sometime later with a physical mask on under the alias Zorro. Why? People at this company, they knew. Period. They knew. I won't sit here and tell you that Jimmy knew, right? I'm not going to make a definitive statement like that.
But again, that video by him, Upper Echelon, is a completely different thing. And I wouldn't brought it up because, Rosanna, slightly, referenced it a tiny bit. But I can definitely tell she didn't really watch all of it. And also as well, saying in his reply as well, just some of the things that have happened because of people's coverage. Coverage, fuck off. Number 1, Jake Will compensated. Number 2, MrBeast finally having to respond to mission flight after not responding for at least 8 months. Number 3, bigger crew hired for MrBeast games after the disastrous Las Vegas shoot. Number 4, Jimmy admitted for them digitally removing and altering a hospital in a charity video. Number 5, Jimmy admitted allowing fake signatures, now finally offers a refund years later. Number 6, internal investigation leads to firing or removing of several high-level executives, including the CEO. Alright, number 1, don't care about Jake Waddle. Number 2, I have no idea what the fuck that is, mission flight. Number 3, bigger crew. I figured that would happen regardless of, the lawsuit. Number 4, believe it or not, I don't care if someone else, like on the VFX crew or the MrBeast channel, did that and he didn't really care that much because it was shown for a second. Number 5, that was probably the only decent point you could have made. And then number 6, what the fuck is that about? Several high-level executives. I don't remember hearing about that. What is that about? But yeah, apart from that, other people's response is stuff like, God, I hope he sues you. So in closing, I think it's saying that someone like Rosanna, after an interview with Dogpack that Profile did, like she would go on Twitter, make a tweet like this, being like, actually, this whole thing was pretty bad. It's a clear, PR move that's pretty shitty. I think it's a PR move, but apart from that, can you say anything bad, that's actually happened or that you can prove? And also, by the way, the big guy that I think is gonna be fucked over the most, Dogpack, he mentioned Coffee's video, but so far, talked about nothing else about Zoggy's video, just that. And if I was him, I'd probably be shitting my pants after the interview. Cause yeah, I think the rest of his life is gonna be, being fucked over by him getting sued. Deservedly. I think for the entire history of the internet, there's no one else that deserves to be sued over than Dogpack. Cause he's been the dumbest motherfucker from the story since the very beginning. And for him, I got no sympathy at all. No sympathy.